Jalen Milroe, rookie quarterback for the Seattle Seahawks, is too special of an athlete and a runner to sit on the bench behind Sam Darnold. He needs a package. He's their secret weapon.
You are Locked On NFL Draft, your daily podcast covering the NFL Draft. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, your daily podcast covering your favorite draft prospects. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I'm your boy, Damian Parson. I am an offensive NFL draft analyst with Bleacher Report. That's my guy, Keith Sanchez. He is a director of scouting with the Draft Network and 2019 national champion with those LSU Tigers. And as always, today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Right now, new customers can get $200 back in bonus bets when your first $5 bet win. Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our everydayers, guys. We are dipping into the OTA bag, man. Jalen Milroe, a very interesting quote that we're going to go over from the GM, John Schneider. He sounds a little excited about his third round quarterback, Treveon Henderson's role with the New England Patriots, and then talking about the new playmakers for the Las Vegas Raiders outside of Ashton Genty, Dante, Thornton Jr., and Jack Besh. Keith, let's get into the conversation when it surrounds and talks about Jalen Milroe. And this is a guy that John Schneider, he said that they have been, through camp so far, they've seen the wows, they've seen the woes, but then he rips off a 50, 60, 40-yard play, and he called them, and I believe the word was special, Keith. He called them special. And now, listen, it's OTAs, you got to be careful, GM, on what who you call special right now, because then you're gonna have people calling for him to start over Sam Darnold. But when you hear, you gotta let him just get his bearings, let him go ahead and do his thing. And when that time comes, he gets his job. He gets the opportunity to go out here and prove why you made that investment and why you felt so confident to make that investment on him. When you hear a quote like that, and I'm going to pull up the actual quote in a second, Keith, when you hear the GM say these things, and just in OTAs, how should the Seahawks fans feel about that?
They should be excited, and they should have been excited since the time they drafted him as a succession plan to Sam Darnold. So the thing is with Jalen Milroe, and anybody who's been listening to this podcast, they know that I've always kind of pounded the table for Jalen Milroe, as I think he can be a good NFL quarterback given the right circumstances. He's always been a special young man as far as the character, right? Like, and I had opportunity to interview him, been knowing him since I think 2022, I believe. And his parents, all of that stuff. Like, he checks all of the boxes, I promise you, that you want in a quarterback, in a leader. I think with Jalen Milroe, part of the issue became blended of, we always talk about this, DP, team success versus taking an individual prospect, right? And Alabama as a whole, not living up to the standard that Alabama once has, I think kind of really brought his draft stock down, and people were not able to focus on just the tools, right? And we talk about this, like going 9-3, I think they went 9-3 and losing to Michigan to end the season off at Alabama is totally different from going 9-3 at Vanderbilt, right? And winning a bowl game, right? It's just a different lens and different conversation, and you're following the footsteps of the Bryce Youngs, the Tua Tagovailoas, right? The Mac Jones, who's another first round pick, and these guys won championships and things like that. So I think a lot of that kind of got brought on him. But when I hear the GM say special, I'm with you. I have a little cause for pause, like, let's slow down as OTAs, right? But then the other side of that is that I think you should be excited if you're Seahawks fans, because there are physical tools. And that's why you heard him talk about ripping the 40, 50, 60-yard throws, because that's there. Now it's just the short to intermediate. And I believe that I seen a quote, DP, that talked about him improving that part, right? And I don't think it was something that he can't do. It was just a matter of consistency in doing it. And if you can get that part down with him, and I think he's working with, when I talk to him, I believe he spent most of his pre-draft process, and I'm assuming that he's going to keep that the same maybe throughout the duration of his career. He was working with the Palmer brother, right? I think it's Jordan, I believe. He was on the West Coast working with him. So I definitely could see Jalen Milroe taking steps and progressions, because I think he wants it.
quote was, he's got some of those wows and woes, and then all of a sudden he takes off scoring from 50, 60, and 70 yards while running 22 miles per hour. He's a special man. He's been great so far. Everyone raved about his work ethic and his personality. So basically, what you just talked about, right? The human, that aspect of, at the end of the day, talent gets you drafted, character, work ethic, the drive is what keeps you in the league. Tom Brady kept Tom House with him for as long as he could as his throwing coach, even after winning multiple Super Bowls. And you're like, well, why would the greatest of all time, in a lot of people's opinion, keep his throwing coach, like his mechanics coach, with them on the road, things of the bye week, stuff like that, when you've already been this successful? Because he was driven to stay successful, right? It's either you get complacent and you don't improve, or you improve. And he always wanted to keep pushing. You see the same thing with Pat Mahomes, and you just see how guys move in the offseason, how they work. You can see when they get back to camp, are their mechanics look good? Do their body look different? Like, guys put the work in, man. So you always love to hear when the talent level is sky high, also the character and the work ethic is sky high, because that usually means if you give him the opportunity and he gets it, he's going to cherish it. He's going to work his butt off to keep it and to improve in that regard. And I think that's going to be a big thing for him. Is just like, when you hear, we know the 50, 60, 70, if he hits top speed, there's not many guys catching Jalen Milroe down the sideline. Once he's gotten over the top of you, he stacks you, it's usually a wrap. Like, he's going to take it to the house from that point forward. So now it's just all about the things we talked about coming around this time last year. Post snap recognition, recognizing coverages, things like that. You probably won't really get a ton of that until you get to training camp, where the bullets are live and things like that.
So I have a question, DP. Is it possible, and this may sound crazy to some people, but we always talk about guys going to good situations, right? I think we both agree that Seattle is a good situation for a young quarterback, because you can sit, they have wide receivers, offensive line is upwards, run game, coaching staff, things like that. Is it possible that Seattle is a better situation than what Alabama was?
Yeah. I mean, his last year, Alabama was a complete culture change. Nick Saban retires, Kalen DeBoer comes in, you lose Caleb Downs, some guys hit the portal, Caden Proctor hit the portal, left, hit the portal again, return. It was just it was so much going on in Alabama last year. So of course, I think that that situation, when you look at, now you have a coaching staff that knows what it's like to win. First of all, Mike McDonald comes from Baltimore. He's seen what John Harbaugh was able to do. He was also at Michigan. No, he was at Michigan with Jim Harbaugh. So he knows, he knows what it takes, and he's going to build. He's building up that defense in his image of what he wants that defense to be: fast, physical, violent, diverse, versatile. That defense, whenever he comes in, it's not going to be all on Jalen Milroe to do every single thing. And I think that's going to be a big part of it. Then having, I believe is it Clint Kubiak? I think it's the OC. And I think we talked about it before. Usually, for me personally, I know a lot of people will say, okay, you get an Anthony Richardson, you get a Taylor Green, you get a Jalen Milroe. You don't want to put him in a West Coast style offense. You want to put him in the Shane Steichen type offense and the Jalen Hurts type style and Lamar Jackson. I actually prefer to put them in a West Coast style offense and get them used to being under center, get them used to dumping it down, taking the check downs, taking the easy routes. Because then, naturally they can be the playmaker and everything else can kind of double down after that. Instead of bringing them in and, okay, we put heavy shotgun, heavy pistol. We play exactly like you got to make. I think a big thing that I would say is being lost in today's NFL is that we're not making these young men uncomfortable or making them comfortable being uncomfortable. We're trying to make everything peaches and creams, rainbows and unicorns for them. And then they get on the field and Steve Spagnuolo was like, yeah, man, I got a lot of things out here that I can throw at you. It's not about to be any of that. Like, this is what to look like pure hell for you post snap, right? Like, you got to be able to, like, really allow these young men to grow mentally. Tom Brady talked about that. So I think Jalen Milroe is in a good spot. I like him being with Clint Kubiak because while Clint is probably going, implement the stuff that Jalen does well, he's going to get him used to the things he's not doing well or he's not accustomed to doing. And then that's going to make him a full-blown quarterback that's also a full-blown weapon as a runner And that's terrifying to think about. I always said this, like if you get a guy like people fear Lamar Jackson's legs. The moment Lamar Jackson start beating you from the pocket, you're like, well, about that. Like we don't really have an answer.
Ain't much we could do.
It's not much we could do. And I think Jalen Milroe is another guy that could do the exact same thing. We watch it with Jaden Daniels, right? Jaden Daniels like, yeah, I can run, but I'm also very accurate down the field. And if you give me one-on-one, you give me the looks I like, I'm going to beat you with my arm. That's the new prototype of quarterback and what teams are looking for, guys that can do both. And I think Seattle's a really good spot for Jalen Milroe. I felt that way when they had Geno, and now that they don't have Geno and Sam Darnold, I still feel that way, Keith.
Yep. Well, DP, let's do this, man. We're headed to the Northeast. We're going to talk about those Patriots and their second-round running back, Mr. Treveon Henderson, and his role. What do we foresee with Treveon Henderson? We're going to talk about that coming up next.
The NBA playoffs are in full swing, and every night delivers highlight-worthy performances, major momentum shifts, and can't miss moments. Whether it's a game-winning shot or a breakout player, there's never been a better time to get in on the action. FanDuel makes it easy to stay in the game before tip-off and live. With player props, performance trends, and same-game parlays, fans have more ways than ever to play smart and win big. And if you're trying to win big, you need to curate and create your bets around the trendy players. SGA for the Oklahoma City Thunder, and you look at Pascal Siakam, two guys that are trending upward going into the NBA Finals. New to FanDuel, it's the perfect time to sign up. Head to FanDuel.com and place your first $5 bet. If it wins, you'll get $200 back in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Treveon Henderson was a second-round pick. I think he was the second running back off the board after his teammate Quinshon Judkins, because it was Hampton, Genty in round 1. I think Quinshon at the top of round 2. I believe it was Henderson right after him. And he's in New England. And just right now, for what the word about Treveon Henderson is that he's fast, he's explosive, he's dynamic. And that's exactly what this offense needs. And they're talking from an aspect of, Keith, where Josh McDaniels and the everybody in the New England area are extremely excited about what to expect from Treveon Henderson and in this Josh McDaniels offense. And I'm gonna be honest, I think that Ramondre Stevenson's a darn good back. He holds onto the football. You got yourself an RB1 because he's big, he's physical, he's got speed, he can catch the ball in the backfield. My comp for him coming out of college was Eddie Lacy. Back when Eddie Lacy was early in his career with the Packers, and he was in shape.
Yep.
He was a battering ram, nimble-footed, big body guy with good speed and agility, right? And everything just kind of eventually went downhill for him, and he was out of the league. But that's why I look at with Ramondre. Ramondre is every bit of that, but he's got home to the football. Josh McDaniels coming back. We know what Josh McDaniels has been known to do with running backs, just period. He loves the guys who can catch the ball in the backfield.
Mm-hmm.
James White, Dion Lewis, Shane Vereen, Danny Woodhead, Kevin Falk. He loves those guys. And Treveon Henderson coming in, bringing that 4.4, 4.3-esque type of speed is a different animal than he's ever really had to coach. Because he never had a guy, back in those, they didn't care about the speed of the running back. It was like, can you catch the ball? Can you run routes? Can you make people miss? You can do those things, we're fine. Now you got a guy that can take it 50, 60 yards off the catch. And that's a very dangerous weapon, because now you put him in the backfield with Drake May. If everything's covered, Drake May dumps it down. You get a couple blockers. We saw it with Ohio State. They run them screen plays. Treveon his patience is top tier on screens. The way he catches the ball, and he just allows his guys to get out in front and create that convoy. I think that's what's going to be the case for him, being that screen guy. But I'm not going to lie, I wouldn't be shocked if he eventually becomes the starter, Keith, and he becomes the guy in that offense.
Yeah, no, I was going to go there too. And another guy I thought about, and he came from a dual threat, a two-back situation. And at that time, some people may have liked him more, I believe. And that's Sony Michel. And when the Patriots drafted him, and they didn't get a lot out of him in New England, right? It's just the pro career just didn't match up to what he was in college. But I think he can be what New England Patriots fans wanted Sony Michel to be. Because I look at it, he's about 5'11", 215. So same range, right, as far as body types and things like that. But Sony Michel is supposed to be that slasher, right? He was supposed to be that guy that can catch the ball out of the backfield, but quick-footed and an explosive ball carrier and being added to that backfield. And I think that's what Treveon could do. And I agree. Like you blend the fumbles by Ramondre Stevenson, right? But then also you add the electricity and the playmaking that the New England Patriots, quite frankly, they just need, right? And we've hit on the wide receiver position and figuring that out. But you need a playmaker. They needed playmakers at tight end. They needed playmakers at running back, right? Like they just needed playmakers overall with this offense. And I think that Treveon Henderson, he can carve out a role for him. He's a guy that I would say watch out by week 8, right? Watch out by week 8 when he gets it going. And he's been part of a dual threat situation. So keeping him hot, keeping him cold, he can, figure that part out because he's been there before. But also he's been in a situation where he's been the guy, right? I think before they brought in Quinshon Judkins, that was the year before or 2 years before. And he showed that he has every capability. And what I see on film, DP, is a guy that you give him more reps, that's when he can make you pay, right? Like sometimes only giving him 10 carries is not the best. Like sometimes those running backs end up with 130-yard games is because they rip them off 4 yards, 5 yards, 4 yards, 5 yards, 8 yards, 9 yards. And then you get a 50-yard run. And then now you look at the stat sheet and Treveon Henderson has ran for 100 yards, right? And that's usually how it happens, is one big rip off of a run. And the speed is electric. He makes defenders pay. You take a bad angle, or if you're just not that fast at all, if you're a 4-6 and you're playing safety, you're in trouble. You better get down there and tackle well and seal things off.
No, 100%, Keith. And I got a quote from my guy, Evan Lazar, who one of the beat reporters over in New England. And one of the quotes he put out was like, I'm excited about McDaniel's plan for second-round running back Treveon Henderson, whose explosiveness and quicks are evident. The Pats could find unique ways to get Henderson into space as a receiver and gadget player from different alignments. And he put it simple. He's a playmaker. And I think about when Sean Payton had Alvin Kamara and Mark Ingram and how they would share the field together. And you would motion Kamara out. And Kamara was never the guy. Like, he wasn't like CMC where he ran a bunch of, like, CMC ran like a ton of receiver routes. They, you know what I mean? Like, dad's a receiver, receivers in his blood. But the way they used Kamara was so versatile and gave him the gadget stuff, just making him a satellite back that could do everything. And I think that is kind of the plan that they should have for Henderson. Yeah, you let Ramondre Stevenson, until the fumbles do show up. If they don't, great. You got yourself two really good backs, and then hey, you know what? We let Ramondre walk into free agency. We can bring in a veteran, downhill thumper to keep Henderson fresh and things like that. I think people compare them to Gibbs, and I'm like, no.
No.
I'm not doing that. That is a total different animal. I'm not doing that. Now, if you say, hey, we go do what the Detroit Lions did and go and you want to make Ramondre this year, especially make Ramondre David Montgomery and use him in a similar fashion to Gibbs, okay, I'm buying what you're selling. But if you're trying to tell me that the upside is Gibbs, I'm like, listen, don't think so. You know what I mean? That's a different type of movement skill and movement patterns and athleticism, in my opinion, than what Gibbs is able to do. But I think reading that quote, I can see the gadget stuff. I can see them coming out in deuce, you know what I mean? Two running backs in shotgun, motion him out, and it's a running back screen with the receivers and tight end on the 3x1 set, and they're all lead blocking for him. I can see them clearing out and getting him out in the space, try to get him matched up on some wheel routes like how Ohio State did when they tried to attack, Xavier Watts, against Notre Dame and stuff. I could see plays like that, which make a lot of sense if they wanted to do that. I am excited to see how much of the workload he gets, because I think that's the main thing. The main thing is going to be like, can we get, if the Patriots can get freshman Treveon Henderson back, you got yourself a bell cow back.
Yep.
I don't know if that guy's ever going to return, because I don't know if he can stay healthy with that type of workload.
Yeah, and that's cool, right? But we still think that he can carve out a significant role for the New England
Absolutely.
Patriots and be a very important part. But DP, we went to the Northeast, man. It's sunny outside. It's time to go to the West Coast to the Raiders, right? We're gonna talk about Dante, Thornton, Jack Besh. What are the young rookies doing over there in tandem with Ashton Jeanty? We're gonna talk about that coming up next.
Thank you for making Locked On NFL Draft your first listen today and every day. Shout out for being our every dayers. Guys, the Las Vegas Raiders had themselves a really good draft. They went and got themselves a #1 bell cow running back in Ashton Jeanty. Then they doubled down and said, yeah, we have Jacoby Myers, we got Trey Tucker, we got Brock Bowers, but we need to go get some more weapons for him. And they went out, and I believe it was either second or third round. They got Jack Besh, wide receiver at TCU. Then came back in the fourth round, top of the fourth, right where I had one of my favorite developmental wide receivers, Dante Thornton Jr. out of Tennessee, a guy that also played and spent time early in his career at Oregon.
Yep.
6'5", just a freak of nature type of athlete. 6'5", over 200 pounds, 4'3", flat in the 40, like things you just can't teach at that height, weight, speed. He's every bit of that. And there's a quote from Sean Reed, one of my guys over there that cover with The Athletic. And he said the Raiders are moving their receivers around a lot. Trey Tucker, Dante Thornton Jr. mostly have been locked in on the outside. Jacoby Myers and Jack Besh have lined up frequently, both outside and in the slot. While, you got both tight ends, Brock Bowers, Michael Mayer, them being capable of lying in the slot and outside receiver. Kelly, in terms of Chip Kelly, the new OC, should be able to get creative with his alignments this season. When you hear a quote like that, how do you feel, or how kind of translate that for the Raiders fans who's like, okay, guys, tell us what we should be expecting when we hear or see a quote talk about our young pass catchers like that?
Yeah, and it's that the OC, the head coach, they're excited about what they did, right? And the truth of the matter is that the Raiders needed this, right? And that was partially, I think, both me and you wonder, like, are they really going to take Ashton Jeanty, right? And just in the back of your mind, just because they had so many holes, right? And as important as the Ashton Jeanty pick was or is for them, Jack Besh and Dante Thornton developing to good wide receivers is also just as important, because they needed the wide receiver like 1, 2, 3, 4, right? And young guys that can actually ball, because I believe it's Jacoby Myers, right? That's there. And he's acting as the wide receiver 1 now, but we both know, DP, you're talking about a guy that's, okay size, right? Just been a solid wide receiver, but you need some of that young juice, some guys across the board. And you're talking about Jack Besh being a big body physical wide receiver. You talked about Dante Thornton already and how explosive he is vertical. All of that is important when you're creating the pieces for a offense to take the next step. And when you do things like bring in Geno Smith, right, sign him to a contract, draft Ashton Jeanty, rounding out the rest of this wide receiver core is vitally important. And I'm all for it. Listen, it's been somewhat of the I guess I would say it's been some of the Chiefs' equation as far as making Travis Kelce wide receiver 1. But we also seen, DP, that I don't think this offense is as scary without Tyreek Hill, right? They get the job done, but they're not as scary. So you can run an offense through a tight end, but you need some of those other pieces on the other side to make offenses pay. When you have a quarterback as good as Patrick Mahomes, you always have a fighting shot to do anything. But if you want to reach that scary phase, and I think anybody, you would probably put other offenses, you probably trust Patrick Mahomes and the Kansas City Chiefs the most. But if you had to put other offenses in totality, you'll probably say other offenses are more scary. And I think the Raiders, if they want to reach that scary point, which they have to because of the AFC West with the Los Angeles Chargers also in that mix and the Denver Broncos, you need some of these young pass catchers to take the next step.
No, absolutely. Like, you need, like, Jack, and I always looked at with Jack Besh with this. Like, he could be that movement Z for you, but I think putting him as a power slot, Jacoby Myers, because truthfully, like, you could let him walk out. I think he only had one year left on his deal. You could let him walk out into free agency. Don't get me wrong. One of the most sure-handed receivers in the game, separates well, great route runner.
Good player.
Really good player, right? But for me with Jack Besh, you put him as that pure power slot. You give him that two-way go. He's that run after catch threat for you. He's that short to intermediate catch threat for you. He's strong. He's well built. He's able to handle the contact in the muddy parts of the field. That's what you want for in your power slot role, while Dante Thornton Jr. and Trey Tucker being the guys that take the top off, and they're polar opposites in body type. I think like Trey Tucker's like 5'9", you know what I mean, 5'9", 5'10", and Dante Thornton 6'5". So it's like you can really get creative, as Tashawn said, because now the Michael Mayer thing, I don't know about putting him out wide because he's just not that athletic to do so.
Yeah, that's stretching it. That's stretching.
Yeah, that's stretching a little bit to me. But we know Brock Bowers can line him anywhere. You know what I mean? So like you can really kind of, in all honesty, I always go back to, I'll never forget that playoff game, Patriots versus Steelers, and they come out in 12. Tom Brady looks at the defense, is like, okay, they got James Harris on the field. They're in heavy set, like their base defense. He called Jordan, went full empty, the tight ends out wide, the slot receivers, the receivers in the slot, and like Pittsburgh's trying to figure out how do we match up with this before he snaps. They couldn't go man to man. They just went straight zone. He hits like a 30, 40-yard seam route to Chris Hogan for a big explosive play. And it's like, that's the type of headache you can put, type of stress you can put on defense when you start doing things like that. And with Geno Smith being one of the, people can say what they want. Yeah, he may not be the future, because of his age. He's one of the best pure throwers of the football in the
100%.
NFL. Like, without
100%.
question. He throws accurately, layers throws, he can laser throws. He's got the full gamut. So, like, you better put some respect on Geno, because, they're going to run the ball with Genty. But when Geno gets that single high, he's like, oh, middle of the field close? Oh, that's cool. I got Dante Thornton out there. Or you inside leverage? I'm taking that all day. He's going to tell him go. He's going to try and train him up to be, kind of be that DK Metcalf. But there was a quote that said, I can't remember. I think it was Jacoby Myers made the comment. He's not just a speed receiver. Talking about Dante Thornton Jr., he said he's a full receiver. So to have a guy that's as nuanced and detailed as that, giving that type of praise and making that quote about the young rookie, I'm telling you now, Keith, that's the guy to me that I would not be shocked if we fast forward 2 years from now and he's the guy who's the number one wide receiver for the Las Vegas Raiders, and Brock Bowers is tight end 1, Jack Besh is that secondary option, and Trey Tucker is the wide receiver 3 in that offense if he's still there. I think Dante Thornton, I am very high on what he can become in that offense.
Yup, DP, I will second that 100%. But DP, that wraps up another episode, man, of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast. And I want to end this podcast off by saying shout out to our everydayers. Thank you for tapping in with us each and every single day. Every listener is greatly appreciated here. I am Keith Sanchez. You can find me on X at The Talent Code. That right there is my guy, my co-host, Mr. Damian Parson. You can find him on X at DP_NFL. And like we like to say, man, y'all come talk to us. We like to talk back.
Go subscribe and follow for free on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to get the latest episode as soon as it is available. On tomorrow's show, guys, on the next show of the Locked On NFL Draft Podcast, we're going to get into Jalen Milroe's 4th-round pick out of Utah State, but he's been impressing in the Kansas City Chiefs OTA practices. We're going to talk about that and his potential impact as a rookie on tomorrow's episode. So come and join the conversation again tomorrow on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.